Shout out to G-Man Boxing.
Alright, Tony Yoka stops Djeko, that's how you pronounce the guy's name, in the 12th round. Alright, I didn't really know this fight was taking place until probably the end of last week. I heard about it was going to be over 12 rounds. It wasn't for a European title, it was for like a little lesser version of it, if you get me. So this was done over 12 rounds. Thoughts on Yoka's performance? It reminded me in parts of the Dave Allen fight. Alright, Djeko was definitely in better shape than Dave Allen. He definitely had a bit more fire than Dave Allen did. But it went a kind of similar pattern in the sense that you could tell Yoka was the better fighter of the two by a country mile. But he kind of fought at a bit of a pedestrian-like pace up until late in the fight. It was really the 11th round where Yoka stepped on the gas and he started hurting Djeko in that round. And it was the 12th round where he finished it. I'll touch on the fight earlier. Djeko was a guy coming up from cruiserweight. God knows how he made cruiserweight, because normally when you see guys come up from cruiserweight and they weren't former champions and stuff like that, they tend to come up from cruiserweight and normally they're not in the best of shape. This wasn't the case. In some ways, Djeko looked even nearly as big as Tony Yoka in there, and he was not fat, so definitely looking like he's filled out at heavyweight. You could tell he had a bit of ability there. Alright, he lost to Ricardo Schneiders. If that name sounds familiar, it's the guy who got knocked out by Dubois last summer in a round or two. So, off the back, you're thinking, okay, this is not going to be the best opponent in the world. But he was fiddly, he was awkward. He had more ambition than Christian Hammer. I saw people saying that, the Christian Hammer performance, how could Yoka not stop him? Hammer is a spoiler. He doesn't really come to fight these days. Povetkin went 12 rounds with Hammer, never came close to hurting him. Same with Luis Ortiz. Djeko was more game. He was awkward. He was fiddly. Yoka's corner were saying he was there trying to survive. I don't think he was trying to survive necessarily. He was definitely, throwing some shots at Yoka. He was definitely, having little brief spots of success. I think the 6th round, for my money, was his best round. I think it was the 6th round anyway. But Yoka, you could tell, was the superior of the two. This was his first camp in a while with Virgil Hunter. Now, Virgil Hunter wasn't in the corner, but it was his first proper camp training with Virgil Hunter. And the first thing I noticed early on was, he's looking a bit like a heavyweight Andre Ward. Not necessarily as good, but some of the movement, even the way he was standing a bit, it was very reminiscent of Andre Ward. And obviously Virgil Hunter is Andre Ward's, number one student. He took him from the amateurs to where Andre Ward ended up retiring. You could see snippets of that in Tony Yoka. The way he was jabbing to the body, he was going to the body quite well. It's something you don't see from a lot of big heavyweights, is they don't tend to go to the body too much. But Yoka was going to the body. He was trying to set up an overhand right. Whenever he got Djeko on the ropes, he looked dangerous. But it fought at a very pedestrian-like pace. After a while, I thought this is going 12 rounds, because it just seems as though Yoka just doesn't have, he's not able to find that, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th gear. It just seems like he's kind of happy to cruise. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. But then, a bit like in the Dave Allen fight, because the Dave Allen fight, he could have knocked Dave Allen out or stopped Dave Allen earlier than he did. But he let it go on and on and on. Then he finally stood on the gas in the 10th round. Very similar in this fight, in a sense that he was superior to Djeko in every way. You got the impression he could have stopped the fight earlier or got him out of there earlier, but he didn't. Finally, the 12th round, he got Djeko up again the ropes, was landing some good shots on him. I didn't catch exactly whether it was an injury or something, but Djeko, I think, took a right hand. The right side of his face was getting a bit bashed up as well, and that was it. He just kind of said no mass almost, and the referee just waved it off. It's good from Yoka, he's able to hold that stamina, get the guy out of there late in the last round. He's saying that he wants a top 15 opponent next. There's some guys in the top 15, that you would maybe look at putting him in there with, definitely Yoka. But he's saying he wants a top 15 opponent, that he wants a world title shot. I still think Yoka's a good bit away from a world title shot, personally. He's very good from a basic point of view. He does the fundamentals right. He's patient. I don't like the way he doesn't have to go through the gears. Definitely seems to have a bit of power there. But I want to see what Yoka's like when someone really puts it on him. Because we've seen in the amateurs, he was never that good. Well, not that wasn't that good. He was an Olympic gold medalist, but he didn't like it when he was fighting, with guys who would swarm all over him. We saw him come apart a few times. So that's what I want to see. I would like to see him in there against someone like that. thing on top of my head, you know, Adam Kalnacki, but Adam Kalnaki's got a very poor defense, so that might be an easy fight for Yoka. But we'll need to see. I think Yoka needs a bit more time personally. But I've always said there's a good fighter there. You know, I'm definitely keen on seeing how Tony Yoka looks. He's a good fighter there. I've always been, you know, interested in how his career progresses. But he's talked about maybe 2 or 3 fights and he's ready for a world title. I'd like to see a few different opponents in there personally. We'll need to see how Virgil... I was always wondering, was he still with Virgil Hunter? Because I hadn't seen him for a while. But obviously with you-know-what, it's not exactly straightforward to travel. So, yeah, he's back training with Virgil Hunter. We'll need to see how Yoka goes. Watch the space, that's what I'll say. Leave it here. Hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you did. Subscribe, of course, if you guys are new to the channel. Hashtag GMazRocks. All that good stuff, lads and lassies. I'll talk to you tomorrow at some stage. Peace.